All right, welcome to the program. It's Mark Wallace, your host and facilitator of this special edition of Election Night, our watch program. And yeah, so I'm going to have some guests that's coming on with me. Ben Jarofsky is going to be coming on to the program. That Ben Jarofsky, who's a great columnist, Sun-Times columnist, journalist, and podcaster, who's been around for a long, long time doing Chicago politics, and very, very capable of breaking things down. So he's going to be joining me. And possibly some people will be joining me from the campaign, from the Sparopoulos campaign. We'll probably have to see what happens at the Board of Review. We're hoping for a victory there at the Board of Review with Larissa Tucker running against the incumbent Board of Review Commissioner Larry Rogers Jr., who you have certainly heard me doing a whole lot of advocating and educating us on really what's been going on at the Board of Review. And so we're hoping that we can make some change there in this election. Unfortunately, I don't think that a lot of people know about what was going on at the Board of Review, or what is going on at the Board of Review, in particular homeowners, and how homeowners have been disadvantaged by what's been going on there at the Board of Review, and certainly working to try to change what's happening there. And the only way that we're going to change the practice is to change the people. And so we have to change the people one at a time. And we've got one office change over there with Samantha Steele, and we need one more if we are fortunate enough to win this election today with Larissa Tucker. If not, then we will have to continue working to educate the public on what's going on so that we can continue to put more eyes on that office at the Board of Review and challenging them to do what is right, what is equitable. So I have some numbers. We're going to update these numbers and get updated numbers as soon as we can. As soon as we can. So I'm going to give you some numbers and share some numbers here with you in just a little bit. David Orr may be joining us a little bit later on. We'll see if, in fact, we're able to get him to come on with us. But we'll see if we can get them on. So we are streaming live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and X, formerly Twitter. So you can catch us all across this. So share the program with your friends and ask them to come in and join on the podcast. And we certainly want to get your comments. You can put your comments in the chat, and we'll read your comments off. Or if you have questions of any of the guests that come on with me tonight. But we're going to just be watching the results and talking about the results, and then talking about those things that we need to do going forward. Politics is not a spectator sport. Politics is everybody has to be involved. It's not a sit on the sideline. We all have to be involved in that in this process, one way or the other. You are involved, meaning that if you don't participate in the electoral process, you certainly sit on the side on the electoral process. You can't sit on the side at adhering to the laws and policies that are passed by people who other people vote into office that you had no voice in. So you may not have a voice in that, but you also don't have any choice to respond to the laws, even if you disagree with them. So when you don't voice your vote, when you don't participate in it, you make the electorate one person weaker. So everybody matters. There's no big I's and no little U's, but if you stay out, that weakens the process. Frustration cannot be and should not be the deciding factor of participating in elections and participating in the political process. It's grinding work. It's sometimes it seems like the nail is not moving, but the nail is not moving or the needle is not moving, usually because we don't have enough people involved to push the needle. The needle is really heavy and it needs a lot of weight to push it, to move it. So you got to do your part. You got to do your thing. You've got to be involved in that process. All right, look, joining me now, my guest is here with me. He's going to be on here, and we're going to bring him right into the studio. My good friend, Ben Jarofsky. Hey, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mark. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I had a few technical difficulties that I won't bore you or your listeners with, but here I am.
That's all right. All right. Great.
Technical difficulties.
Okay. Well, that happens to us sometimes. So, I got some information here, Ben, and that I'm looking at some of the statistics of the voter turnout.
Yeah.
But these were earlier statistics. They didn't look good. And so earlier, as of 3:00 today, there were 253,798 ballots cast out of 1,697,498 active registered voters. That's just a little less than 15% by 3:00 this afternoon.
The city of Chicago?
That's the city of Chicago.
How wow, 15%. Damn. God. That is sad. Wow.
Yeah. And in the Cook County, the suburban Cook County area, there were 50,000 mail-in ballots, 75,000 early voting, and 86,000 election day voting. 13%.
Wow. So
what do you attribute that to?
Well, I mean, there was no competition in the Democratic side of things. Think about it. And really no competition in the Republican side of things either. So there's no competition. There's no big stake race. The highest competitive race was Cook County State's Attorney. And that's already down like 3 or when you vote, I think it was the fourth choice you had.
Right.
That's off the top of my head. So that explains it. I had a guest on my podcast, Mark. I think I mentioned this to you. He was talking about Michigan and the fact that the movement to get people to vote uncommitted brought voters out, not just to support uncommitted, but people who wanted to vote for Joe Biden to show strength for Joe Biden in the face of uncommitted. It was competition that generated turnout. And when there's no competition, people lose. Mark, I can't tell you how many people ask me, what's on the election this time, Ben? Who's running in this one? There was no Senate race. You know what I'm saying? There was no big time mayor's race. There's no governor's race. What's the name of the lady who's running? Burke. They were trying to recall Burke's name, the woman who's running for state's attorney. So I think that that's the answer. There's no competition.
You think that Burke, Eileen Burke's name worked against her?
No, I don't. I get your thoughts on that. Quite the contrary. The name Burke is golden in this city of Chicago. That's so funny. You know how many Burkes there were involved? We talk about him on the show. The judge who ruled on the Bring Chicago Home lawsuit, Burke. The judge who was on the Supreme Court that was married to Ed Burke was a Burke. Ed Burke is a Burke. This woman is a Burke. So I see no evidence that the Burke name, it's not like the Jarofsky name. Good God, no one named Jarofsky has ever been elected to anything, Mark Wallen. They announce it, they don't know what it is. They see it, they get nervous. Uh-oh, I'm gonna mispronounce this thing. The Burke name just is so easy. So no, I see. No, do you sense it did? Do you think that people voted against her?
No, I don't have a sense at all, whether it did or it did not. I just wonder if what your thoughts about that was. But maybe not. Maybe having a Burke name is golden, because if you can get the Illinois State Supreme Court to recuse themselves from taking your license, man, listen, that's got to be a golden name. I mean, come on, you can be a criminal, you can be convicted of 13 felony accounts, and the Supreme Court's give you cover. That's got to be a golden name.
Yeah. Oh, we discussed that at length when you were on the show. Yeah, no. The Supremes, they couldn't come up with 4 members of the Supremes to vote to deny Burke his law license because they were too busy recusing themselves. Lord,
Well,
Lord.
you got to change one of those continents from C to W. Wouldn't come up with 4.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, wouldn't.
And he lost me on one. I'm like, what? Oh no, I get it.
Yeah, they were in. That was intentional. I mean, I am still stunned about it. I am stunned about it. That they would actually say and gather and huddle and say, "Hey, 4 of us are going to sit this out. We don't have to tell them which 4 it is. We're going to sit it out, and we're going to give Burke cover. We know he's a criminal, and we're going to give him cover. And we're going to let the criminal go stand before the bench and practice law legally. Continue to do what he's doing."
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I had never thought until you asked me that question whether the name Burke could possibly be viewed as a deterrent to a candidate. And I just my gut level feeling is no, it can only be a plus. And for years and years and years, you know as well as I do, Mark, having an Irish last name gave a person an advantage in a judicial race because judicial races, of course, are those races down at the bottom of the valley, hugely important, but most people don't follow the elections in any kind of detail. And so many times they're just, well, they don't vote at all, or they're voting on a name. And I don't know what goes on in the psychology of voting for an Irish name over a Polish name or a Jewish name or a Lithuanian name. I have no idea, or a Hispanic name. All I know is that in the past, people have viewed it as an advantage, and that there were candidates who have, in the history of the elections, changed their name to Irish last names, even to try to make people think they were Irish. So I would guess that Burke is an advantage, and I'd like to see the results. Are there any results? I don't think there's any results in that race yet.
No, I don't think there's any results yet of that race. I'm looking at the Chicago Board of Elections to see if there's any results that is coming in.
So
You know, the
far.
polls just closed at 7:14. It's 7:14, so the polls just closed at 7 o'clock.
Well, Joe Biden has been projected the winner.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Joe Biden is projected the winner. Oh my goodness, Mark, he's mopping the floor. He's got 95.3%. Now it's early, okay? It's very early, but he's mopping the floor. 2% of the votes counted. President Joe Biden, 95.3% of the vote. And Marianne Williamson, 2.1. Dean Phillips, 1.8. And a man named Frankie Lozada, 0.8.
Oh, man.
And
I only wish that was November the 5th.
My God, can you imagine if Biden beat Trump with 95% of the vote? Trump would be going, "It's fake, it's rigged, I'm a baby."
Well, he said that if he loses the election, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, and then he tries to back the guy. You know, I'll tell you what. I'm just going to tell you straight up, Mark. I voted for Biden in this election, and Trump's comments his last few days have been so utterly insane. And then the game he plays, where he doesn't retract them. He makes it seem like he's a victim. It just reaffirmed distaste, to put it mildly, for Donald Trump, and I was actually eager to vote for Joe Biden. When I just saw, I'm voting for Joe Biden. To me, it's a symbol. He's not Donald Trump. He's the opposition to Donald Trump. Probably he's not the candidate I would have chosen. Wait, strike probably. He's not the candidate I would have chosen to represent the Democratic Party, but he's the one that the Democrats chose. So I'm going with Joe Biden, and I don't apologize for it at all, Mark. So, but it, I didn't really have any strong convictions about it, Mark, until the last few days. It was like over the weekend, and just all the poison that came out of Donald Trump's mouth just sort of reaffirmed my notion that how important it was to send a message.
Wait, did I hear you say that it was just affirmed or reaffirmed in the last few days?
Reaffirmed, yes. No, it wasn't that the passion to vote for Biden wasn't strong. I admit that.
Really?
Yes, the passion to vote for Joe Biden. That's a different than
Was
the
not
passion
strong.
to vote. Was not, yeah, as opposed to the passion to dislike Donald Trump. Like linking one to the other wasn't that strong. But it's something about when all the bile that Trump was releasing, and then I got to the polling booth today. I voted on election day, and I saw Biden's name, and I'm like, I'm for Biden. I'm for, and Mark, this happens a lot to me. If I may use you as a psychiatrist, it was that way with Jimmy Carter. I was not a huge fan of Jimmy Carter when he was president, but over the years, as time's gone on, I reflect on the life he's lived and the courageous stands he's taken, and the sincerity he has. I believe the genuineness of the man. I'm like prouder and prouder of the fact that I voted for Jimmy Carter. Voted for him twice, Mark. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a Carter guy. And I wouldn't have said that in 1980. Young me, radical me. He's too wishy-washy. He's too much of a centrist. But
Well, his first election was what, 1976?
Correct. His first
presidency. So I wasn't old enough to vote at the time. And but Jimmy Carter is my favorite president of all times. I had the absolute pleasure of meeting Jimmy Carter's chart here back in 2015. And Susan Peters, the late Susan Peters, who was a host on WVON, and she did a health show. She was an employee at the University of Chicago. I called her when I found out the day that Jimmy Carter was here having a book signing. I called her and I said, is there any way that you could get me in to that book signing? And she did. She got me into the book signing. I went there and walked straight up to the front of the line. I felt like a big rock star. And I got in and I met Jimmy Carter. My favorite president of all time. I never had a desire to meet a president other than Jimmy Carter. I don't care about meeting Barack Obama. I don't care about meeting any of them. But Jimmy Carter is something that I hold near and dear.
All right. So, Mark, are you saying Jimmy Carter is your favorite president of all time because of what he did as president? Or are you saying that in retrospect, Jimmy Carter is your favorite because of how he's lived his life since he left the White House?
Largely how he's lived his life since he left the White House. I mean, he did some things that were some good things. I think that if he had gotten support, we would be much better off environmentally. I mean, he was the solar president, right? Who under his administration, but of course they didn't support that. And look where we would be now if in fact we utilize that and implemented that over all these years. We would be 50 years ahead of the rest of the world in terms of preserving energy in the world and in the country.
Well, I guess I must have a few years on you because I got to vote for him in 1976. You must have voted for him in 80 then.
Yes, I did.
Presidential election. Yeah, so I voted for him in 76. I remember it very clearly. And then I voted for him in 80. But see, 80, now we're going back in memory. It was a very contentious race for the presidential nomination on the part of the Democrats, where Jimmy Carter was challenged from the left by Teddy Kennedy, Senator Edward Kennedy out of Massachusetts. I had my issues with Ted Kennedy, Mark. This is how young I was. I was just so opinionated and self-righteous. I admit it. I had my issues with Kennedy because of Chappaquiddick. And I vowed to the world, no one was listening at the time, that I would never vote for Ted Kennedy because of Chappaquiddick. I believe he was directly responsible for the death of Mary Jo Kopechne. And so I just said, I'm never going to vote for Ted Kennedy. But then he gave such a powerful speech at the Democratic National Convention. I don't know if you remember that, Mark Wallace, where he
No,
was.
I don't.
Oh my goodness! You should go back and listen to it sometime. He was just calling up all the ideals that his family's name had come to represent to Democrats of a certain generation. Very powerful moment. I still was convinced I was never going to vote for him, but it filled me with uncertainty about Jimmy Carter. It was so unfair to Jimmy Carter, if you follow what I'm saying. And it is established in my mind the truth that an incumbent president who's challenged in a primary and seriously challenged is in trouble. That's the first time I came face to face with that reality. Well, I guess I'd come to it with Gerald Ford, who was challenged by Ronald Reagan in '76, and to a certain degree, I watched that with the Republicans now, with Trump being challenged by Nikki Haley. And, this gets kind of papered over, Mark, in my humble opinion. There's not as much concentration on this by the mainstream media. We go on and on about their coverage of politics. But I do believe that the significant number of votes that Nikki Haley has received, it's somewhere in the 20s, and most of the primaries is an indication of weakness for Trump, but it doesn't get covered that way by the press. Press has two different standards, one for Donald Trump and one for Democrats. So.
Well, I've said to you that the last legitimately elected Republican was Dwight Eisenhower. That was a last legitimately elected Republican president. All of the Republicans subsequent to him got into office under serious controversy and serious questions. Ronald Reagan got in because he told the Iranians to hold the hostages until after the election. The Iranians had already cut a deal with the presidential or with the Carter administration on releasing the hostages. Ronald Reagan's campaign cut a deal with Iran, telling them to hold the hostages, and that's what killed Jimmy Carter's reelection. Because Jimmy Carter, in all polls, was winning the election. Like back when polls were legitimate. He was winning the election until Reagan cut the deal. And you can just go through each one of the Republican presidents that have won the presidency subsequent to that is mired under some controversy.
Yeah, including.
So that's why I say that's where your last legitimate Republican elected president.
Yeah, and then Nixon in '68, he undercut peace talks, and the trickery and the treachery of the Republican candidates for president. This goes back before Trump, but Nixon undermined the peace talks to end the Vietnam War, which is ancient history. Whenever I tell people about this, Mark, to kind of look at me, they're confused, and I realize things that you and I take for granted. Obviously, this is an obvious statement that if you weren't born at the time, you don't understand them. So people are kind of confused, like, what was the Vietnam War? You know what I mean? And they who was running? Who was running for? I mean, was Lyndon Johnson running? No, Lyndon Johnson wasn't running. He was vice president, and then I realized nobody knows who Hubert Humphrey is. So that's a whole other story. The lack of knowledge that exists for politics, and I'm out of it a little bit because I'm so obsessed with it. But I see your point, and it's a good one. By the way, there's more results have come in. Have you seen this? I'm seeing on my that Trump is now projected as the winner of the Republican primary with 6% of the vote in. He's got 76%, and Nikki Haley has 18.7%. So,
okay.
She's already suspended her campaign, so it's strictly a protest vote. You take a Republican ballot, you vote for Nikki Haley, that's strictly a protest vote. So it's the equivalent of someone voting uncommitted in the Democratic primary in Michigan. It's a protest vote. I have no idea what it means in terms of the general election, but if I were Donald Trump or his strategist, I'd be concerned.
Well, they say that the voters for Nikki Haley are largely those independent votes, and that those independent votes are not going to largely vote for Donald Trump. I don't know that is the case, but that may very well be. These may be people who say, you know what, we are about decency. There is no way that we are going to side with Donald Trump. In fact, I don't know how anybody who calls themselves decent sides with Donald Trump. I have a problem at connecting those dots with decency and siding with Donald Trump. I don't know how you connect those dots. Help me with that.
No, I can't help you with that. I don't even want to try to help you with that. I think this is an embarrassing moment in American political history. I obsessively follow politics. I don't believe I've ever seen a presidential candidate who's behaved so disgracefully as Donald Trump in all the time, in his behavior, his attitude, the rhetoric he uses, and to have built a cult following that he has is both impressive and scary. I mean, they're sticking with him. It doesn't matter what's released about him. So that's, at one level, it's like, whoa, that's impressive. I've never seen anything quite like it. On the other hand, it's frightening. So I don't even try and attempt anymore to try to find some good spin on Donald Trump. I feel as though this is a nightmare that our country is going through.
It is a nightmare. It is a nightmare.
What happened?
There's no question about that. It is a nightmare that we're living to. But on the other hand, it's not a nightmare. What it is that we're living is we are finding out that the extraordinary progress on race relations that we thought that we had made between the 1950s and now, and certainly of 2016, we're finding out they were not as extraordinary as we thought. That there were people who still harbor those same thoughts, those same philosophies. And Donald Trump is the person who gave them the freedom to relax and vent them. And then when they were losing that, we saw what happened in January 6th, was the culmination of that. And then we see all those folks who are in political power, who were people who were racist and bigots in their hearts, but they could mask it because they didn't have to. They had the power and they had all the control. They had all the power and all the control. They didn't have to share it with anybody. They certainly didn't have to share it with anybody black. They certainly didn't have to listen to anybody that was black that was in power above them, like the president of the United States. Barack Obama becoming the president of the United States was the absolute insult to racists and bigots. I just want to make sure that I separate them from, because, I don't look at every white person as a racist and a bigot. I'm talking about those people who harbor in those thoughts and those ideals, but they didn't have to act on them because they had all the control. And we see it coming out. We see it coming out because they could no longer hold it in, because it was like, man, we've got it now, and we can turn this thing, we can turn the clock back now. And Donald Trump is our poster child to do it. That's my thoughts.
What's your sense of how black people are going to vote this time when it comes to November, Biden versus Trump?
Black people are going to vote like black people have voted in the past. Black people are going to look at the facts. Black people are going to look at the results, and black people are going to vote like black people have. Donald Trump and the Republicans have been losing black support since the 2016. They lost black support in 18. They lost black support in 20. They lost black support in 22. And I suspect that they're going to lose more black support in 2024 when black people look at it. I mean, black people are frustrated by the Democratic Party. But the way that I look at that, and I say that, listen, there is no purity test that we should be trying to live by. There are people in your family that you are frustrated with, but you don't want to get rid of your family. You're not going to get rid of your family. You're frustrated. You get angry with them. You cuss them out. They cuss you out. You fight. You don't talk for a few days, but they're your family and you want to make them better, or you want to get better. That's what we have to do with the Democratic Party. So what we have to do is we have to put ourselves in a position to make sure that we could force the Democratic Party to do better by our community. Now, on balance, when we look at what Joe Biden's administration has been able to do, $6.5 billion in 3 years that they've given to HBCUs, not minority colleges, HBCUs, $6.5 billion. The student loan forgiveness that black students are going to disproportionately benefit from as a result of Kamala Harris crafting the language in the legislation that includes Pell Grants. Because remember, they tried to do it race-based before, but the courts threw it out because you can't have a race-based federal policy. So it was brilliant that she had that language put in to include Pell Grants. And because they included Pell Grants, 97% of all black students enrolled in college use Pell Grants. So they're going to disproportionately benefit from the student loan debt forgiveness. So, and I can go on and on and on and on, which is what I'm going to do going up into the election, is just to put the facts out. Once black people see what the facts are, black people are going to go to the polls on November the 5th, and they're going to vote for Joe Biden. Now, you're going to have some black people who are not going to do it, but that's going to be in that small minority that, thinks that, hey, we vote red. I don't know why. I have no idea, other than the fact that the Red Party are buying off a few meritorious manumissioners and putting some money in their pockets, and they can sell their soul. That's all that I can attribute that to. Because how in the world does anybody black go line themselves up with a party that's 99, 98% white, and everything, the philosophy about that is about, Southern white conservatism that does not include anybody else but them. So how does black people align themselves with that? I can't even explain it. So what I ask black people when they start talking about, well, we're going to vote red, and I start asking black people, please show me one, not two, but one public policy that Republicans have put forth in the last 30 years that have been Republicans put forth in the last 30 years that has benefited working people or black people. Just one. Now, I've raised that question some few years ago. I haven't gotten the answer yet. Now, some people tried to say that Trump gave money to black colleges, which, we quickly debunked that because that didn't happen. He didn't want to do it. Ronald Reagan signed the federal holiday for Dr. King, but he didn't want it. Democrats brought it forward. So Just because he signed it doesn't mean he wanted it, right? So, so to answer your question, I think they'll probably end up with somewhere around 8 or 9% of black support in the election, but it's not going to be this 20% that Lee Atwater came out with in 1994. I mean, that's been their tag every 2 or 4 years. They come out with that black folks are 20% of black folks who are going to vote for Republicans. It's never happened. It's never happened. I think the largest that they've ever gotten is 12% or something like that. But they've been losing more and more black support over the last several elections. So black people are going to, by and large, vote for the Biden-Harris administration.
Well, I'm with you on this, and I've shared this with you when you come on my show, and I feel very strongly about this, although I have no proof. But I just believe that there's a propaganda campaign that's been around going back to the 80s. You mentioned Lee Atwater. Maybe it started with the Bush election in '88. That has always attempted to exaggerate the black support for the Republican Party. I've told you this, I study the results and the aftermath from the segregated wards of Chicago. And every time I do that, it's not even 8%, Mark. If you take a look at the 6th ward, if you take a look at the 8th ward, which are South Side black wards, it's usually less than 5%. And it doesn't matter who the Republican candidate, it doesn't matter who the Democratic candidate is. Mm-hmm. So it could be Bill Clinton, it could be Al Gore, it could be John Kerry, Barack Obama, and Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden. And so I'm thinking, why is it that the 6th and 8th ward, the results are overwhelming, like 96%, 95%, in some cases 98 or 99% from some precincts for Kerry or Biden or Hillary Clinton, etc., Barack Obama. But the exit polls show the black votes 8 or 9%. And I've always felt there was a disconnect there. And then, when I mention this to people, they always tell me this: well, Ben, black voters are not a monolith, and black voters in the 6th and 8th ward are different than black voters, let's say, in Georgia or Alabama or pick any, Cleveland. So for a while, Mark, would go around and look at precincts in Alabama. This is how, this is kind of how my brain works. And I couldn't tell much of a difference at all. The only issue I don't know like the direct equivalent, like the precincts and the wards in Birmingham, Alabama, that are overwhelmingly black residents, like the 6th and the 8th. And I'm looking at the results. I'm going, I'll bet you some white people live in this precinct. I guarantee you some white people live in this precinct, because the vote for, let's say, George Bush went up to 20%. I will guarantee you, Mark Wallace, there are some white people that live in that district. Just like if you go south in Chicago from the lakefront, and you all of a sudden, in the old days, the 2nd ward was predominantly black, then you would hit Hyde Park. They're the white people. You could see and I'm not doing this to say black people are controlled by the Democratic Party. That's the flip the Republicans put in. Black people, by and large, are like lefties. And lefties look at what the Republicans are offering, and they look at what the Democrats are offering, and they go, the Republicans are offering me nothing. Absolutely nothing. I would be voting against my own interests and my own beliefs if I voted for them. So I'll either vote Democrat or I won't vote at all.
Well, it is this to assume that black people are stupid and that they can't read and they can't decipher what is going on. It's not that they hold some holy alliance to the Democratic Party, but they look at what is being delivered between the two. Now, when you say the difference between Alabama and people tell you that there's a difference between black people in Chatham or the black people in the sixth ward than the people in Alabama. No, there isn't. Chatham is called Chatham, Alabama. South Shore is South Shore, Mississippi. Black people here in Chicago, by and large, are connected to Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi. Just about any black person that you go to here, their grandmother or grandfather or aunt or uncle or somebody is from the South. My wife was born in Aberdeen, Mississippi. She grew up on the west side of Chicago. So there is no difference between Chicago black folks and Alabama black folks. They're all the same. They're all the same. So, you know,
why in your, do you think the exit, do you think black people are lying to the exit poll?
I don't even know if they're really talking to black people at the exit poll. You know, I don't, which is probably one of the reasons why I just don't pay polls any attention, because I look at the results, right? Because I contend polls don't vote, people vote. And black folks, you know, we have had to do, because of how black folks have been treated in this country, you know, we have had to operate in a stealth-like manner than other people. So black folks are never going to just tell you exactly what they are doing. So they may be, you know, telling you something different than what they are doing. That is, you know, that's who we've been.
I think
right?
you hit it in the head.
So,
just that, Mark.
yeah, especially some white person coming to them asking them on how you voted. Are you kidding?
You hit it on the head. That is exactly right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. And
Yeah.
you know, gaslighting I took, oh God, I'll never forget in the 2004 election, they came out with a survey that said 20% of black people are going to vote for George Bush. And I was like, no way. No way. No way. Absolutely
Yeah.
no way. Sorry. Gaslight someone else. Don't gaslight me.
Mhm.
And I'm glad you said that, because I absolutely agree with you 100%.
Well, that's the thing, that again, that black people are stupid, and black people can't see, and black people can't, you know, feel what's happening to them. Like I said, I am a registered Democrat. I'm a registered Democrat. There was one time that I was really frustrated with the Democrats, and I was giving some thought to deregistering as a Democrat and registering as an independent. Then I thought about it, and I was like, heck no, I'm not going to deregister as a Democrat. I'm going to go there and I'm going to beat on the door of the Democrats, and I'm going to tell them, get your behind in line and get and do what you need to do. And that's what I am saying to black people, that we don't need to say, well, we're going to go vote red. No, just get the one who is there that's not doing what we want them to do, and replace them with somebody else to do what we want them to do better. That's how you fix that.
All right, just to bring you some new results coming in, and love to get your thoughts about this.
Where are you getting your results? Because mine are not coming in.
Oh, well, I have the Sun Times and WBEZ are doing updates, so
okay,
on a regular basis, and they sent me an email.
Okay.
Because I'm a subscriber. So, well, just one of the many benefits of subscribing to the Sun Times. Anyway, so Biden is still committed with 34% of the vote in. Biden 91%. And Illinois election results. Yeah. So this would be statewide, I guess. And Trump is 77%. In the race for Cook County State's attorney, 49% of the votes are counted. And Burke is winning with roughly 54% of the vote to 46% for Clayton Harris. And this one, the Bring Chicago Home referendum is losing with 32% of the vote in. It's the no vote is 56%, and the yes vote is 43.9%. So, man, what's your thoughts about that Bring Chicago Home referendum? Go ahead.
Well, my thoughts is that we should support it, but the reason why it's losing is the same reason why the Fair Tax Act lost. Terrible messaging, terrible messaging on it. And I wrote Brandon and sent him a text and his people that if this referendum loses, it's going to lose the same for the same reason that the Fair Tax Act lost. And I don't know how many gazillions of dollars that Pritzker paid promoting that. It was bad messaging. Bad. I don't know who these people are, or they're so disconnected from the broader society. They overthink this stuff, and I mean, the measure on the ballot, and I have the sample ballot here. I wish I could. I wish I would have had Sarge to put it in there. I would put it up on the screen. The measure on the ballot, the Bring Home Chicago measure, is the length of an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper.
Yeah.
It is, so it's bad messaging, bad message. And I told him, if this goes down, it's not going to go down because it's bad policy. It's going to go down because of bad messaging. It is a good policy, and all it is asking. And I even pooled a few people who I know that buys homes in that price range and asked them, white people, and asked them, would you have a problem on a one-time tax if you purchased a home to pay a little bit more to help some poor people?
Mm-hmm.
Not a single person said no. Not a single person said no. But if you look at the way that they have this, written in some constitutional language that nobody can understand, and the way that they've messaged it, the opposition had a field day. They had a field day, of knocking it down. It's poor messaging, absolute poor messaging. It's why it's going down. That's the only reason that it's going down. Not because it's a bad policy. It's not a bad policy. Mm-hmm. In fact, the people who are on the lower level, middle income people, we're going to get a break. 95% of other people who bought property in Chicago, if you bought a home, you were going to get a break on your transfer tax. You're going to pay less. For people who bought homes at 1.1 million or lower, you were going to get a tax cut in your transfer tax. Now, you're not going to get it. You're going to pay the same that everybody else is paying. So you don't get the cut. 95% of the people don't get the cut.
Isn't that wild?
So just there you go.
Yeah. I'm really going to be thinking about this. I got to take a deeper dive, look at the results before I come up with my my strong theories, because I got to see where the votes are and where the no votes were concentrated. If there was a difference, a significant difference between the no vote, let's say, in an upscale Gold Coast ward as opposed to a poor ward that's away from the lakefront or away from the downtown. I have to see that, Mark.
Yeah.
Before I draw any in particular conclusions, but I'll point out again. We started by talking about this very low turnout. There wasn't a compelling motivating force bringing people to the polls. It was one of those elections, a classic eat your broccoli election. You know what I mean? Where everybody's saying, you got to do this because it's the right thing to do. And Mark, you and I joked about this before we went on the mic. So many people asked you who to vote for. You sent out all your cheat sheets. I did the same. I went for a walk this afternoon after I talked to you on the phone. I was sending out cheat sheets as I was walking from people who just said, Ben, what do I do?
That's got to make you feel good that people, they trust your judgment, especially on something as important. But it's got to make you feel good.
I I mean, I never turn anybody down when they ask for the cheat sheet. And it's always kind of funny, Mark. People, the depth of knowledge that people think I have is impressive. So they'll ask me about some obscure judicial race. You know what I mean? Like, who are these candidates? I'm supposed to know all the judicial candidates. But I mean, I am kind of on that spectrum when it comes to politics. So, yes, it does make me feel good. I'm not complaining. I'm just underscoring a point where nobody calls me when it's Trump versus Biden. They don't need direction on that. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Burt versus Harris. Who? What?
Yeah. Who are those people? You mean there's some other offices to vote for, actually?
And then people be like, is she related to Burke? They think there's one Burke in all of Chicago. Is she related to Burke? That's all they know. You know.
Well, as I said before, the Burke name brings some perks that nobody has ever gotten in the history of the state of Illinois, being protected as a criminal by the Supreme Court. I called for a protest vote against Joy V. Cunningham. I said that everybody should go to the polls and vote against Joy V. Cunningham and send the other guy there. Send Jesse Reyes there just to send a message to the Supreme Court.
Well, here we go. You did not succeed. I'm just telling you that right now.
Okay.
49% of the vote in. Joy Cunningham is mopping the floor with Jesse Reyes. It's 74.7 to 25.3. So did not. You were about as successful as I was with just the people vote yes.
Yeah. Well,
my fail.
Okay. Yeah.
Now here's an interesting one that if you really are in the weeds of Democratic politics, and this is in the weeds. This is a north side race, northwest side race, Senate primary. A woman named Graciela Guzman is running as an insurgent candidate, supported by all the lefties and the progressives, whatever they call themselves, against an incumbent, Natalie Toro, who's supported by the hierarchy of the Democratic Party, including Senate President Don Harmon. And with 23% of the vote in, Guzman is winning. So it's still early. I don't know where those votes are, but that is, to put it mildly, an interesting result. So, after an election, Mark, people want to claim the victory, that their movement has momentum.
Right.
And so it's not a really great night for lefties and progressives in the city of Chicago on that Bring Chicago Home ordinance. But I guarantee you, all my friends of the leftist persuasion will be concentrating on this election. Yeah, but look at this. Guzman won. So anyway,
do you see any results about the 3rd district of the Board of Review?
Oh, that's your favorite. Hold on, let me go down. It's down. Here we go. I'll get there. All right, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, Michael Crawford is beating Mary Flowers with 33% of the vote in, 69% to 31%. That's early, and I just saw Sonia Harper was winning. That they're kind of connected there, right? Hold on, I'm looking. Oh, and Mariana Spiropoulos is defeating Iris Martinez in the race for clerk.
Well, that's good.
Clerk, yes, with 68%, with roughly 67%, 49% of the vote in. And Tara Stamps is winning decisively in the race for county commissioner. But I do not see.
That's good.
It's important as it is to you. Apparently, it's not that important to the Sun-Times, because they do not list that Cook County Tax Review race on their list of races that they're following. But Mark, I have to head out now. I have to take another obligation to a dear friend.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. I certainly appreciate it, Ben. It's always a privilege to be on with you, and thank you for coming on. And I love coming on your show, being able to chop it up and talk about these issues. I got to talk to you about something else off air, because I haven't seen somebody in a while. We're going to talk about that, but I'll have to talk to you about that off air. Well, thanks so much, Ben Jarofsky. You all,
Take care, Mark.
journalist, columnist, and political expert to his friends.
Yeah, to his friends. Call me anytime. I'll send you a cheat sheet. Take
All
care,
right,
Mark.
Ben.
I'll
Thanks a
talk
lot. Take care. All right. Okay, folks. All right. So there we have it in the election. Some of those races, there it was a long shot. I haven't seen the Board of Election with what's his name. I just assume that if things are going in that direction, we probably are not going to be successful. It's a long shot, but we shall see. It's probably going to be an early night. Congratulations to Tara Stamps. Certainly glad that she is going back to that office. So congratulations to her. And certainly congratulations to who else that Sonia Harper. Sonia Harper was one of those other people that were being attacked by them. Mary Flowers. I tried to get Mary Flowers to come on to talk with us a few times. She's supposed to come on last night. I showed up at an event that they were having. But look, what this really speaks to, that these are people who have been in office for a very long time. They, have probably done some, some good things. But I think by and large, when we look at the overall conditions of the Black community, when these kind of challenges come up, when people have a lot of money, remember, you either have a lot of money or you have a lot of votes. And the people who have a lot of money, in more times than not, they end up winning because we do not organize our votes together. That's why it is important. It's an imperative that we now, more than ever, if we are expecting to advance our communities in any great way, we are going to have to organize ourselves so that we can make determinations on whether or not we want to keep people or whether or not we want to get rid of them. But we have to organize ourselves together so that we are making these decisions no matter how big of a check that somebody else is writing. Because big checks can never, ever beat big votes. Never. But big checks will always take control of small votes, meaning low turnouts. And so I was looking at some of the results. I want to know what happened in the Board of Review election, but that to me is one of the most significant elections here, because it could have fundamentally changed the way money is going outside of our community. Money is just running rampantly outside of our community by the Board of Review because of Larry Rogers Jr. and George Cardenas. And if Larry Rogers Jr. wins, then that practice is going to continue, and you're going to continue subsidizing, or we are going to continue subsidizing very wealthy property owners' taxes. You and I are going to continue to do that. So I'm going to continue to see if I can't find that. That poll. I'm trying to see. Okay, so the Bring Home Chicago referendum. Let's see what the numbers are there in the Bring Home Chicago referendum. Bring Home Chicago referendum. What are the votes there? But this one is going down because of bad messaging. It's really going down because of bad messaging. And I, as much as said that to the administration, but apparently they don't want to listen. They want to just continue doing what they're doing. So be it. But when they are only allowing for some small group of people that's not reflective of the community and not in the community. And they probably didn't have people who are involved, actively involved and engaged in what's going on, and certainly engaged in the um, in that area. They allowed for this organization, BOMA and CAA and NBOA, these organizations to spend money, and they did a masterful job at messaging against the real estate slight marginal increase of the transfer stamp, transfer tax stamp, transfer stamps tax. So it's going to go down. It's going to go down again, in my opinion, not because it's a bad policy, but because it's bad messaging on behalf of the administration. They don't want to change course on what they're doing or listen to what anything. And, they wanted to tell me that, I was factually incorrect. I wasn't. I tried to get somebody to come on from the Bring Home Chicago, but they claim that they could make it, and then we'll do some recaps after. Maybe they'll come on next week, maybe not. I don't really think that they'll come on. Certainly that it's going to go down, but it's going down in flames, not because it's a bad policy. Not because it's a bad policy. And I would hope that Bring Home Chicago does not give it up. It's going down because of bad messaging. The other side characterize it as a property tax increase. And Bring Home Chicago had nothing to counter that. Nothing to counter it. And the messaging that they had was extraordinarily weak. It was extraordinarily weak. It had people very suspicious. They didn't understand it. I had a couple meetings to where I explained it to our committee, but I explained it and I showed just a basic example of what that is. Just a basic example. And I look at the ballot here and see on the sample ballot where the measure on the ballot is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs. That's crazy. 8 paragraphs. Nobody's going to read 8 paragraphs. And then in reading that, they get more confused by the paragraph if they don't understand it already. And certainly people who don't, most people only buy one home in their entire lives. But people like me who buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell, I go through this process. But the average person doesn't do that. And so you're speaking to the average person. So you have to speak in their language. I said this to a minister who had to do recently a eulogy. I said, don't go and speak in language speaking above the people that you're speaking to. You need to use their vernacular and their language. When Jesus Christ went and he spoke to farmers, he used the language that farmers spoke in. He spoke to them in their language, with his message in their language. You have to be able to communicate to people so that they can understand it in their language. You can't go and give somebody a message that has never spoken that language before and expect for them to get it and support it. That's in effect what they did with Bring Home Chicago. Coming up with these great names, they think Bring Home Chicago. How about let's house the homeless? How about just doing something as simple as that? Let's house the homeless. not bring home Chicago. Who are you bringing home? And you say that, what are you talking about? Bring home Chicago. How about we're housing the homeless? Something very simple that people could understand. We're going to house the homeless. We're going to house those people who are living in tents and under viaducts off the expressway. We're going to refurbish, renovate existing properties that's dilapidated, that's unoccupied, housing in Cabrini Green, where they still have several of those properties that are vacant. We could renovate those properties and house people who are unhoused. We've got loads, hundreds of units in the city that can be renovated to provide housing for the unhoused or to provide housing for the homeless. How about simple language like that? What's that old saying? KISS, keep it simple. Stupid. So it's going to go down in flames because of bad messaging. And I told them so. I sent a message to the mayor and I sent a message to his advisors. This is going down. And if it goes down because of poor messaging. Period. Fundamentally. That's why it's going down. So we've got to get better at getting the message out. And you got to speak in simple, simplistic terms. You know, if you've never spoken, if you don't speak the language and somebody's coming to you and they're speaking to you in a language, in a foreign language, I don't care how great it sounds, you can't understand it. So if you can't understand it, you can't go along with it. So that's that. Let's look up some other results in the election. By the way, I didn't see one pamphlet that was put on a door, put on vehicles. I didn't see any signs out that talked about providing housing for the homeless. I saw none of that. None of it. But I saw these fantastic messages that were all complete lies because BOMA and that group called it a property tax increase, like your real estate. So they put the language out there so that it would have you thinking that your real estate taxes are going up. And then they said that it's going to cause rent to go up. Guess what's going to cause rent to go up? What would have brought rent down is the fact that landlords in most of our communities selling their properties and people buying their properties were going to get a tax cut. They were going to get a tax cut on the one-time tax that they pay when they bought the property. That's on 95% of most properties in the city of Chicago. That's all properties that are $1.1 million or less would have received a tax cut. So that tax cut will not be happening. Why? Because of poor messaging. So 95% of the properties that would have sold on the south, on the west, on the north, on the northwest, 95% of those properties, any of those properties that are less than $1.1 million will no longer be getting the tax cut. So you won't be paying less when you go to buy that property. So, those savings could have gotten passed on. that would have been millions and millions of dollars that would stay in the communities, that will not cause people to have to raise rents, because whenever costs go up, it gets passed on to the tenant, and rents are high because we don't have enough housing. We're not building enough housing. When we were building 20 million, 10 million houses in 2002, in 2010, we built 10 million houses less, and we're building fewer housing now. So what happens is, the reason why rents are so high is because the supply is low and the demand is high. And whenever that is the case, of course, you're going to have higher cost. So what do we need to do? Build more housing. We need to build more housing. Simple. And we need to stop using language that people don't understand. Talk and speak to people in everyday, ordinary language. Trying to sound as profound or, so astute. I'm not sure who that they're trying to impress with language that people don't even understand, or with language that people don't even use. Most people know that, you're pretty sharp. You're in a position, you're pretty sharp. Speaking simple languages and simple language. Jesus didn't use complicated language that you couldn't understand. He spoke to you plainly, but he spoke to you in language that you understood, not language that he understood. He didn't speak to you in his native language. He spoke to you in your language that you could understand. And when he sent the disciples out, to speak to people in their native tongues so that they could understand. So the point is, speak in simple language that people can get, that people understand, that they use every day. So there we go with Bring Home Chicago. So apparently it's going down according to those results. So let me try to go back to the results. All right. So here we are, the 2024, the one to amend the real estate transfer tax. So there's 54.3% of the no vote and 45.7% of the yes vote. So it's not largely to kept, and that's with 66% of the votes counted. Unless there's going to be some real turnaround there, that's probably going to go down. Let's see. And okay. All right. So the Illinois Supreme Court, District 1. Let's see what's happening there. District 1. Okay, with 69% of the vote, Joy v. Cunningham, 74%. That's too bad. So looks like she'll be retained. She'll be retained there. Let's see what's happening with Mary Flowers. Mary Flowers is in District 31. So that's with 58% of the vote, 69% vote for Michael Crawford, and 30% for Mary Flowers. The voter turnout is dismal. Absolutely dismal. in the voter turnout, which is going to take me to back to why I said to us that it's important to build this block 10 by 10 to win, to build the 1 million voter voting block. Remember I said that we lived in largely 20 wards in the city of Chicago. Largely 20 wards we live in. And so, excuse me, we live in largely 20 wards in Chicago. And if we were to get 10,000 members to become a part of the union of 10 by 10 to win voting block, it's a voting block. That's what it is. It's not taking anybody and asking people to leave their organizations. We're asking for people to join and bring your organization, that we have a voting block. If we had 10,000 people in each one of the wards that we're in, that's 200,000 people. And if we're all voting in the same way, for instance, in the Mary Flowers vote, we would have determined, we could have put our own candidate in there and we would have determined who would be in that seat. And I can go down each one of them, which I'm going to do in this Thursday night's meeting, to show you how powerful it is when you have an organized mass number of people, organized with a strategy on how to impact politics and how to impact elections. Remember, the primary election is the general election by and large for Chicago, actually for Illinois. So typically what happens in the primary is the person that is going to win in the general, because they've already won. So let me just go down a few more of those here. So 58% of the vote and 5,624 votes for Michael Crawford, 2,457 votes for Mary Flowers. That is less than 10,000 votes. We had 10,000 people voting. We would have determined that race. Let me go to another district. All right. Let me go to another district. Let's see what district this is. Let's go to district. Okay, that's an uncontested race. Okay, that race is uncontested. Let's see if I can find one that is contested. Let's see what okay, most of the races are uncontested. Let me see what ward is, or what district is Sonia Harper in. Let me find that. Let me see. Sonia Harper is in. Sonia Harper. Let's see. Sonia Harper. She is in district. Okay. Why is this not saying what her district is? All right. Let's see if this gives us what her district is. Nope, this doesn't give her a district. Represent. Oh, she's in the 6th district. Okay, so let me go back to the 6th district. Let's see. Let's see what those numbers are. Okay, let's see what those numbers are. Okay. Okay. We go through Chicago Board of Elections, Chicago Board of Elections here, Chicago election results 2024. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, primary election results. Okay. Joe Biden with 91%. Donald Trump with Nikki Haley, even though she suspended her campaign. Donald Trump got 78% of the vote. Nikki Haley still got 16% of the vote. Let's see what the state assembly is. Okay. All right, let's see. She's in the 6th district. Sonia Harper. Look at this. All right. Sonia Harper looks like she's ahead. I want to remember I said 10,000. All we needed is 10,000, right? 10,000 people participating. So 36 and 1,300. That's 41% of the vote. So far, only less than 5,000, 4,936. That's 41% of the vote. They might get to, which I doubt, they might get to 10,000 once all the votes are counted. Maybe. I doubt very seriously. But take a look at this. If we had 10,000 people in that ward and 10,000 people voted for the candidate that we had there, our candidate would have won. So I'm telling you, 200,000 people in a voting block, in a black independent voting block, we will transform how government functions here. Transform it. These are real numbers. All right, I'm trying to see if I can find out what's going on in the let's see. Well, that's going down in flames. I'm trying to see if we can find out what's going on in the board of review. Tara Stamps seems to be doing well. I'm glad to see that happening. So congratulations to her. Okay. Okay. Oh, Lord, primary. Let's see. Okay. Let me go to Chicago Board of Elections. Chicago Board of Elections. Board. Okay. All right. Let's see. Election results. Election. Let's see what we can find here. Okay. I can't seem to find that anybody is listing what's happening at the Board of Review. Chicago elections results 2024. Okay, let's go there. Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right. So the referendum is 54% no, 46% yes. Illinois Supreme Court is showing 75% for Joy v. Cunningham. Jesse Reyes, 25%. Let's see. Sean Caston looks like he's on his way back to re-election. Chuy Garcia is on his way back. Danny Davis looks like he's on his way back to re-election. Okay, let's see. Okay. Look at all of these races are less than 10,000 people. Some of them are less than 5,000. Some of them are less than 5,000. All of these numbers are going to be critical. I'm going to be covering this in our meeting on I'm going to be covering those in our meeting on Tuesday night. 200,000 people. Some of these, they have 200,000. With 200,000, we could determine the election. Tara Stamps, 85%. Looks good. Water carry still. Okay, let's see. They haven't shown any of the. They're not showing the Board of Review. They're not showing what's happening with the Recorder of Deeds. Let's see. Yeah, so the Board of Review, they're not even showing that office. Right, they're not even showing that office. All right, so listen, folks. Sorry about that. I just wanted to get some. But the point that I'm making here, and what is so critical is this: what is so critical is that if we build the block, if we build the voting block, we change the culture of politics as we know it. We change the culture of politics. We change how they view our communities. We change how they how they treat our communities. But we've got to change. In order for that change to come, we have to do the change. And how do we change? We shift from individualism, we shift from being fractionized to joining with each other, combining ourselves together, having our own inter discussions and our own consensus of who it is that we want to select to elect to an office. That's real power and real possibilities. But it could only happen. It could only happen if you and I changed. And if we could convince others to do the same and demonstrate to them, I'm going to use these election results in our meetings so that we can see in real time what real numbers are and how we can change the trajectory of politics in Chicago, in Cook County, and in the state of Illinois. We can change the trajectory. Now, there are some races. We go back to, all right, Mary Flowers, 70% to Michael Crawford, 30% to Mary Flowers. And we look at all right, in the 5th district, Kimberly Neely Dublo, is it Duboulet? 78%. Andre Smith, 22%. There's an okay, Danny Davis with 80% reporting. Danny Davis is 52%. Closest to him is Melissa Conyers Irving. Thank goodness for that. So we have okay. So let me see what we have others saying here. All right. Let's see. Happy for Spiropoulos. She's the best. It will be a long time for. This is Perry Smalls. She just wrote. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Mary Flowers won beating Welch. She did. Okay. Okay, I got to look at those numbers. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, I'm looking for some results here because I just received a message. Maybe I need to go back. Let me go back and see what those election results are and see if they change. I hope. Okay. Okay. All right. So now we're looking at 80% of the votes there. Joy Cunningham seems to be a sure winner. Sean Cassidy, Danny Davis, they got 80%. It seems like that he is going to prevail. Let's see what's happening down in the has anything changed there? Well, I don't think that Mary Flowers is. Somebody sent me a message that Mary Flowers is winning. I don't think that she is. I'd hope that she did. It looks like Sparopoulos is winning. She is the best, always been. Glad Clayton was a loser. Glad Mary won, beating Welch. Danny won because West Sides don't vote. Yeah. I don't think that Mary won. I was hoping that Mary Flowers would be able to sustain there. But you know what? I think, again, I think that the best thing for us to do, really, the best thing for us to do is we've got to organize ourselves. We have to organize ourselves. We got a great, phenomenal opportunity before us. Great, phenomenal opportunity before us. And if we can get organized, we can change the climate, we can change the culture of what's going on in our communities. But we have got to do it. We've got to invest ourselves to do it. All of us who know how important it is have to make that commitment to just participate just a little bit. So come to the meeting. I'm going to put it in the chat. If you're not in the text alert, get in the text alert. So you get in the text alert, then you're going to receive the meeting notices, which we do by Zoom. So I'm going to just put it in there. All you have to do is text 10x10 to 855-909-1385. Text 10x10. Make sure I got it in there right. I'll put it in the chat. That's all you have to do. Text 10x10 to 855-909-1385. All right, listen. That's going to be it. I think we're going to wrap it up here. And we'll bring you more information on the next time that we have the People Show. But look forward to seeing you on Thursday night for our weekly 10 by 10 to win voting block, union building, independent black voting block. It is not against anybody, but it is certainly pro liberating the black community and lifting the black community and giving the black community the power that it deserves, the access to the power that we can finally bring together to have real power. That's what we're doing. So join us. text 10x10 to the number 855-909-1385. When I send out the text alert for the Zoom meeting for Thursday, you'll receive it. It usually goes out between 9 and 12 noon. And make sure you join us for the meeting on Thursday night. It starts at 6:30. We end at 8 o'clock sharp. And I just explained to you what the mission is, the methodology is, and the results. If we do this, that's what we end up doing. We catapult ourselves into a whole new stratosphere as it relates to politics. Coming up also, we're going to be working. We've got some information coming out about a statewide analysis on red light cameras and certainly on the speed cameras here in the city of Chicago. The mayor has certainly made some commitments that he was going to do something. It hasn't happened yet, but we are going to, we're working with one of the media outlets that has a report that's coming out. It's going to, again, demonstrate the disproportionately and the disparity in red light cameras and speed cameras. Make sure that you look out for that. If you have received red light cameras or speed camera tickets, please contact me and let me know if you would be willing to participate in as an interview. The interviews will be done over the phone, so you don't have to be on camera or anything like that. It'll take 10 to 15 minutes. So if you receive speed camera tickets or red light camera tickets in the last year, and you want to participate in the report that is being done, please contact me and let me know. And then we will certainly take your information and make sure that the reporters have your information and they will contact you to do interviews about what's going on here. All right, well, that's going to do it for now. So certainly want to I was hoping that Craig was going to be coming on with us in the Sporopolis camp. Let me just see what those results are. Let's see what's happening in the Sporopolis in that race. Okay, let's see what's happening there. Okay. Let's see. Sporopolis over Iris Martinez. I think Sporopolis is winning there. Oh, Sonia Harper is winning, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Mary Flowers is not going to make it. It doesn't look like she's going to make it. That's just unfortunate. And Sporopolis looked like she's on her way to victory there, Mariana Sporopolis. So, yeah, congratulations there. All right. Okay. All right. Well, listen, that's going to do it for me tonight. And I want to thank Ben Jarofsky for coming on. Ben Jarofsky is a journalist, podcaster, and he's a columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times and others. And he put some great pieces out. So thank him for coming on with us tonight. And thank you all for joining and tuning in for us tonight. Look for another edition of the People's Show. And of course, Saturday, we're going to be doing the legal hour with Judge Leonard Murray, who is running for the appellate court. That's the other race. Before we go off, let me look and see if I can see what's happening in those races to see if we've got any results back in the judicial races. Chicago elections, judicial. Let's see if they have those. 2024. Okay, let's see if we got anything happening. In the judicial races. Let's see. Can we see what's happening there? Okay. No, it's not showing anything in the judicial races as of yet. So I'm not seeing anything there. Nor am I seeing anything on the board of review. All right. Well, so that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you all very much for tuning in to the program. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next time around. Have a great evening, and we will talk to you all very, very soon. Look for the next posting of the People Show.